The third homework prompt was to make a program that had an ellipse that when you clicked on the ellipse itself, nowhere else on the screen, but the ellipse, that you would be able to drag it and drop it somewhere else on the screen. So when I say click on the ellipse, I actually mean the square area around the ellipse because we are going to use mouse X and mouse Y with some nested conditional statements to check to see if the cursor is horizontally between the left and right sides of the ellipse and vertically between the top and the bottom of the ellipse. So that makes a square area that is in fact clickable, and that's fine for our purposes right now. So I need the void mouse dragged method. To do this. And I also need an ellipse that can be moved. So if it's movable, its x and y coordinates need to be variables. They're not going to use the mouse x, mouse y variables in the ellipse itself because then it would always follow the mouse. So I'm going to start up here and say int x equals, we'll start it in the middle of the screen. So that's the x location of ellipse. To save time, copy, paste, I'll change this to y location of ellipse. And then I'm going to draw the ellipse on the screen. We'll fill it. We'll make it red. And I'm going to use x comma y as the location of my ellipse, and I'll make it 100 by 100. So now, the conditional statements I'm going to set up to check to see if the cursor is in that on top of the mouse, or on top of the, on top of the ellipse, it's going to be in mouseDragged. So we already know that we don't need an if mouse pressed here because this method will not be called unless the mouse is pressed and moving. So we're first going to check to see if the cursor is horizontally over top the ellipse. So I'm going to say if mouse X is greater than the left edge of or the left side rather of the circle when the program starts is 250 is the center minus the radius. If the diameter is 100, the radius is 50, so the left side is 200. However, as soon as I move the ellipse, it's not going to be at 200 anymore. I need to use this variable x to make an algebraic expression to represent the left side of the ellipse. So it's going to be the center, x, minus the radius. So if mouse x is greater than x minus 50 and mouse x is less than the right side of the ellipse, so that's the center x plus the radius. So now I know it's checking to see if the mouse is horizontally over the ellipse. Now I need to check the top and the bottom. It's going to be the same thing, except I'm going to use mouse y and that y variable we defined. So mouse y is greater than the center on the y-axis minus the radius, and mouse y is less than the center plus the radius. And if all those things are true, if the mouse is being clicked and dragged, if the cursor is over top the ellipse, then under those circumstances, I want to reset the x value to the current cursor value and the y value to the current cursor value. So if I click, I can drag it, and when I let go, I'm letting it go now. It stays where it is. If I click over here, nothing happens. But if I click on the ellipse, and again, it is really the square area exactly around it. So if I click here, it is going to move so the center is at the point of the cursor, but that's okay. It's pretty close.